20% down from our usual ridership. It's going up very, very slowly now after a real quick uptick in the fall and winter of last year. We're kind of returning to normal patterns, and as things open up more, it'll steadily increase. But for now, the whole wearing is caring and wearing your mask, that is still in play. It is still valid. You can still be asked not to go on the bus if you aren't wearing a mask. Okay, if you're on a bus with me, I've got extra, so we'll be good. All right, a lot of information on buses. And if you're a rider, you know how that has sometimes impacted our service delivery. I did a quick set of calculations. The useful life for your average 35, 40-foot bus is 12 years. Our average bus age is 11 years. So we've got buses that need to be replaced. Same thing with our vans. Those are a useful life of 4 years, and our average useful life is 4 years currently. Fortunately, however, about half of our fixed route fleet is in the process of being replaced. And most of our paratransit fleet is in the process of being replaced. In particular, of the 7 fixed route vehicles that are being replaced, 4 of them are going to be battery electric buses. As a result of a Volkswagen Mitigation Fund grant that we got in 2018, we've gone through the process of identifying who we're going to be getting our buses from. Gillett, who make our diesel vehicles. Those 4 vehicles have been ordered. They're in the production schedule. They will be manufactured spring of next year. They should be on the property. We'll get more information on that tomorrow, actually, in the pre-production meeting. But we're expecting them in May or June of next year, which means that we are no longer just talking about it. We're prepping for it because it's going to happen. These buses are going to be primarily for the Broadway Metro Express corridor. The state wanted to make sure that their alternate fuel investment would have the biggest impact. And that is the second most used transit line, even pandemic related, outside of the South Shore. So that's where these buses will be. And if the experiment works well, as I was telling someone earlier, we'll make the entire fleet electric. But this is sticking our toe in the water, seeing how it goes. We know we're going to save money because fuel costs are not, are much higher than the cost for the charging to electrify. So that's where we are with that. For our paratransit vehicles, we're not just replacing them. We're replacing our paratransit buses and we're rebranding our paratransit system. It's no longer just going to be quote-unquote GPTC paratransit. When these new vehicles hit property in December of this year, it's when they're expected, we will be launching or relaunching a paratransit service as Access 219. Our opinion is paratransit needs to be more than just an outgrowth and an afterthought of our fixed route system. And we're not going to treat it that way any longer. So everything else pretty much remains the same, even though we're going to be making some technological changes in-house. But it's a new brand, it's regional transit, that's Dial-A-Ride, that's paratransit, that's demand response, with its own name. All right, next one. Now for shelters and other facilities. We've had a couple of instances on Broadway. We've had some shelters damaged, and we're in the process, it's in a painstaking process, of identifying the vendor to replace them, because we have to go out for bid, and then go out for bid for the installer. Installers will be Gary-based. These shelters will be our priority for our shelter program in 2022. And we're going to start with the ones that have been damaged, replacing some of those, moving a couple of them to safer locations, but basically making the front door of our most significant transit service more palatable and also safer, because it's going to be changing materials slightly. In addition to that, let me see, we're going to be adding a couple of shelters at locations that don't currently have shelters right now, particularly 61st and Broadway, where a older shelter was damaged and removed. 19th and Broadway, which is a transfer point, and right outside here at the library, because the library is going to help pay for it.
Yay!
Next. not just going to be working on shelters on the Broadway corridor. Once we get these replacement shelters in place on the BMX, we are going to be putting in new and improved shelters at other locations. Our first phase of improvements will be east and west of downtown, near Grant Street and near Mississippi Street and downtown west and Emerson. We're also going to be replacing 2 shelters on the Miller Beach area, one near Lakeshore Dunes and the other in downtown Miller. 2 in University Park. I think one of them is at 3280 Pierce, which is a senior facility, and the other is on the University Park route near Tiburon Trails. And then we're going to be building our first shelter probably in 15, 20 years. Well, not 15, 20 years. Since the last time we built something in Maryville, we're going to be building our first shelter outside of Gary in downtown Hammond, which is where the Lakeshore Connection and Lakeshore South meet up, and they also meet up with some PACE buses as well. Lastly, we're going to be giving our drivers a bit more breathing space. Right now, since the closing of our relief facility near USX, they've been using space at the Metro Center for breaks and for prepping before they start their shift. We're going to be building a state-of-the-art facility at 20th and Broadway that will not just we have some problem with that. That won't just give them some breathing room. It'll be much cleaner. It'll be their own space and not just an add-on to another facility. There'll also be additional meeting space for us, an administrative space for us, and of course public access for because it's on the BMX and other routes. We're going to start the design work for that in 2022. Not sure what the time frame is. I'm not going to make any promises on when that's going to start, but it's on the books, and we've been planning on it. Patiently planning on lining up the money for several years, and we're finally at the cusp of getting started on the design work. Thanks. All right. Not sure if everyone in the room has been paying attention, but at least my personal opinion, is not just to make technological advances to make it easier for people who don't ride our buses currently to ride, but to make it easier for people who do use the system now to ride with more information at their fingertips. In 2018, we started the token transit program, which is mobile passes on your buses. Any pass you have, paratransit or fixed route, you can purchase on the token transit app. In 2020 and 2021, we launched a project with the Chicago Transit to essentially program all of our bus routes and our schedules and our bus stops into a computer interface called, I think it's General Traffic Fee Specifications, GTFS for short. Basically, it allows websites to be able to predict where your buses are going to be at and give you the ability to plan your trips. Because of that, we are able to offer, right now, 2 new trip planning services. Move It is an app in the App Store and in Google Play that will essentially allow you to find out when your next bus is coming, wherever you are. Or if you're going to make a trip for tomorrow, you can actually plan on it. Google, you can do the same thing in the same search tab if you're looking for, where Steel City Bakery is going to end up being at. Okay. Those same programs, those same websites now will allow you to find out when your next bus is coming, plan a trip for tomorrow, plan a trip for next week. Next slide. And on our website, our native ad, our native trip planner, our official trip planner, was built for us by Move It, which is one of the apps that I mentioned before. So if you go to GaryTransit.com and then go to the drop-down menu and hit Trip Planner, you'll get this screen here with our entire service area as a map, and you can put in your address, your time of day that you want to depart, and where you want to go, and you'll get an individualized itinerary. You can even send it to your device so that when it's time for you to leave, your phone will tell you, head for the door. We think it's a very, very, for us it was a cost-efficient way of substantially upgrading the technology that we've got around our system. And it's being used. About 5 to 10% of our mobile pass users are buying their passes on these apps as opposed to just token transit. So We're slowly seeing people use the system a bit more. And again, if you have any questions on that after the presentation, I can answer them. Any of them. All right, next. All right, as part of that token transit program and that relationship we've got with them, we're going to be offering discounted mobile passes at the new development around the corner called the Broadway Lofts. This may be one of the first instances, once the contract is signed, where a private developer and a public transit organization, for a TOD, because this is right along the bus route. This is what's on their website when they started construction. This is an image that I took about maybe 3 months ago during construction. It's basically right on the bus route. This is TOD, not just planned transit-oriented development, but something taking place right here in downtown Gary. They're building their own token transit portal for our system for their residents, and they'll be getting discounted bus passes as a result of that. So that's a relationship that we're hoping not just is going to get us, a little bit of press, but also provide an example for how public and private entities can work together for public transportation. There are a couple other developments that we're looking at emulating the same type of process. And eventually, what we're looking to do is to become a mobility management organization, where regardless of whether or not you're using conventional routes, fixed route, using more than one mode, you'll be able to go through that through GPTC. I figure since we were all together, we talk about some of the other transit projects going on. This is going to affect us, as a matter of fact, once it opens. The South Shore is doing their double track project, which is basically inconveniencing Miller residents for the next 3 years. But afterwards, there'll be a bigger train station. We're going to be adjusting our L2 Oakland County line service to serve this station a bit more directly than we do now. They've already closed a portion of US 12 and rerouted it to the US 20 corridor. I think that opened up on Saturday. And it really does look good, actually. But because it's impacting GPTC's service, I figured since we're going to be getting together today, we would talk about that also. Again, they're going to be starting construction of the actual rail line next year, and it won't be impacting GPTC service permanently until, I would say, 2024. But it's coming down the road, or down the line, so you know it's coming. I also thought I would mention another project that's smaller, but it's kind of significant in that every transit rider is a pedestrian twice. And we did a investigation of some of our bus stops in the area with the Regional Planning Commission, and there are several bus stops that don't have great pedestrian facilities in them. So we wrote a grant to the State Department of Health, actually, and received $10,000 that would be used to match federal money to improve the pedestrian facilities near Metro Center and near 9th and Broadway. That project will be putting in not just new crosswalks, but artistic crosswalks. The idea is called tactical urbanism. They've done it in Fort Wayne, they've done it in South Bend, they've done it in Indianapolis. If you've seen Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C., that's tactical urbanism. But here, we're doing it not just to make downtown look pretty, but so our passengers don't die crossing Broadway, going over to Salem. We've already selected 4 artists, 2 from Gary and 2 from Chicago, and we'll be cementing those relationships over the winter and their design work and doing the actual installation in conjunction with the city next spring. And that's it. As I mentioned earlier, there's information on pretty much every subject that I discussed briefly just now. The electric buses, the paratransit service, a letter to our paratransit riders that I printed out. There is information on NICB's double track. And as I said, if anyone has any questions on how to use the mobile apps or the trip planner on our website, I will be available to discuss that afterwards. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
How long does it take for your buses to charge, and what's the mileage that you get from?
Okay, well, we're planning on using, I think they're level 3 chargers or level 2 chargers, not the fast chargers that that are at some of the larger organizations. What our plan is to do is to have them fully charged overnight, and maybe have what we call opportunity charging at the relief facility that's going to be on 20th and Broadway once it's up and running. But at minimum, we want to have 3 of those vehicles on the BMX at at any one time. We don't know whether or not we'll be able to have all 4 of them out there all day. What we may need to do is have one cycle out to replace another so it can charge overnight. The builder, the builder of the manufacturer of the buses, Gillig, they actually have a consultant who will be helping us perfect how to schedule our bus rollouts to maximize when they're on the system. Once we know, after a couple of years, what their average mileage is going to be, that'll inform how many vehicles and what type of vehicles to purchase for our next set of electric buses. So this is going to teach us how the rest of the system is going to be. And if you have an opportunity to go down to Indianapolis and ride the red line, that's what we did last year when we were doing our due diligence on this here. It's excellent. It's quiet. It's so quiet, it's almost a safety hazard. So the bus drivers are going to have to be aware that riders may not hear you coming like they do now. But most, if not all, of the drivers who drive the electrics down there prefer to drive the electrics because the technology is a lot cleaner. The response time is a whole lot quicker. It's not a drivetrain, it's a not a powertrain, but a drivetrain. Or I forget how the difference is described, but the reason why we chose Gillig is because 85% of the parts are the same. That 15% is what makes them so much different from your conventional diesel vehicle.
Can you talk about any of the new type of tech equipment that will be available on the new buses,
Okay,
if any?
We've got several. We are looking to add what's called traffic signal priority to the electric vehicles. It's something that Robbie and I are researching. Several different communities in Northwest Indiana upgraded their signals to allow emergency vehicles to trip a green light when they're going on a call, police, fire, ambulances. It also works for transit vehicles. So we're working with the company that put the equipment on the signals to see if we can put them on the buses. In Rhode Island, they were able to put a system on their rapid bus network to allow them to increase frequency without adding a vehicle, because it made the bus so much, it reduced any lateness on the system, and it decreased the dwell time so much, or increased the dwell time so much, they could fit another set of trips in without labor costs, without any other costs, aside from just being more efficient. So right now, most of the BMX south of 53rd Avenue, most of Broadway south of 53rd Avenue has the signals equipped for this. And if we have the buses on that route and able to use it, we'll be able to reduce our lateness on that route south of 53rd Avenue. Once Gary gets theirs and East Chicago gets theirs, we'll be able to use it throughout the system. That's one. We don't know whether or not we're going to have Wi-Fi.
I know, I was going to be like,
Yes. We'll see if we can afford it. Right now, without going into too far into detail, we have a certain amount of money from the VW program. And once we hit that cap, we can't afford to match any more federal dollars without using local money. Right now, we're under budget for that. I mean, unless we get some really, really bad news from Gillig tomorrow, we plan on being under budget. So we're going to be upgrading our fare boxes. And like I said, adding the transit signal priority so that we can trip the signals, at least in America.
Are we adding the auditory to that as well for the auditory stops, or no?
I would have to check whether or not we've got the stop announcers in the current bill. We can find that out tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, since your office is right down the hall for me.
Yell across the
Once I
hall.
get off that call, yeah. But for
Okay.
everyone else, what she's talking about is so that if you're new to the system and you don't know where your stop is going, where your next stop is, an automated signal, an automatic voice will actually tell you when the next stop is coming. So we'll see. Any other questions?
Yeah, yes. So you mentioned the station in downtown Hammond. Now, I haven't been down there since 2012 when EasyGo Transit went down. So, from what I understand, the facility that goes back to Hammond Transit is closed. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is this gonna serve both your buses and Pace buses, or how's it gonna work?
Right now, our BMX buses and the Pace buses meet right across the street from Stratton and Van Til. This facility will more than likely be where the R1 sits, waiting for the R4 to come up to meet with it. I think around the corner from that is where the Pace buses sit. So they'll be accessible to Pace, but they'll be directly next to our bus route.
Well, right now, Pace got just put a new one up on the snow side where they pick up on more. We gonna simply add one. That's where I was gonna be on that one.
Okay. I'll make a drive out there. I mean, if they've got a nice facility, we can accept.
Now theirs is on that little corner on that side there, where they come in, where the snow is on that side over on that corner.
Okay.
And we on the avenue coming here to go back out and come out.
Okay, I'll take a look at it. I'll check it out. It's been a while since I've been on the R1, so I might come out there.
Right, that's where they said it.
Okay. Any other questions?
You mentioned this discount portal at the new building on 7th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just for residents in that building, or would a member of the public be able to access that discount portal?
Well, right now, the past deal that we're going to be finalizing with MVH, the developer, is for residents. It's kind of an incentive for moving in. However, they're looking at different types of mobility upgrades, and their relationship with us would basically mean that if they went with a bike share or a car share program, they might use our interface to do that. So right now, it doesn't have an impact on current riders. Only those people who will be living at Broadway Loft will be able to get the discount, but the impact of that could spread throughout the entire system.
And following up on a conversation that you and I have had in the past regarding the passes for seniors being discounted since their fare is discounted, has that been brought to the board? Is there any movement on that? So that we're not paying a full monthly pass fee because we're a discount fare.
I haven't done any research on other discounted senior fares. I don't know if when we did our research on our current fare structure, maybe 10 years ago, we didn't see it happen a lot in Indiana, and that's what we use as our models. Our peers were in Indiana. I'll check again to see if that takes place. What we don't want to do is, because right now they do get a discount, they just don't get a discount on the pass.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It would be logical that if you're getting a discount, you should also be getting a discount on the pass. It's a different fare.
Right. I will see how what I might actually do is check with Token Transit and see if they've got clients who do that. Because what we want to do is make sure that whatever we do for our quote-unquote paper passes, the magnetic strip passes, we can also do for the electronic. I'm also our Title VI Civil Rights Officer for GPTC, so everything I touch, I'm always looking at the accessibility angle to make sure that when we got Token Transit, we're able to bring all of our passes into that. So I need to make sure that whatever we do for the paper passes, we can also do for the mobile passes. But stay on me on that, because I need to speak to Fort Wayne and Indianapolis and South Bend. We actually talk to South Bend monthly on a pillar-related call, and I'll bring that up at our next conversation.
One other question. We also had a discussion in the past regarding the county's interest in a regional bus system. Has anything happened since my conversation with Mr. Dahl and my conversation with you?
We are talking about that inside with the board. So, a week or two after you and I had our conversation, I informed the board. We actually investigated whether or not we need to work with an existing lobbying firm or get our own lobbyists. We did price that out. But the reason why the board started that process is because they want to make sure that what happens downstate, we have control over. So we really, really appreciated that information.
Okay.
And they're acting on it.
Okay.
So thank you. We don't want to be blindsided.
I thought I had a question. Oh, no, I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't have one. No, I don't have one.
You have one, sir?
And with the small transfer buses, do they have a regular schedule as the regular buses?
I love the access
buses that you
219.
talked about.
Well, those buses are our paratransit vehicles. The Access 219 is our paratransit service for those who aren't able to get to a fixed route stop and qualify for a paratransit. What we wanted to do was but make sure that system is not just an add-on to our fixed route program. So giving that service its own brand kind of elevates it to the same amount of, essentially a higher profile than it is now on an even keel with our fixed route system. But on occasion we have those buses, some of the vans on a fixed route, but they operate with the same protocols, same fares and same system. But the Access 219 service is paratransit. Anything else? You got one? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is premature to ask, but speaking of NHTSA projects, with them building the West Lake corridor, has there been any planning about how you might reroute R5 or R1 to accommodate the new stuff?
Diplomatic answer. No. However, we've made it known since the West Lake corridor first was envisioned that there needs to be attention paid to feeder bus service. We've identified for NICD and for the RDA examples nationwide where new commuter rail service, the demand was built up by bus service in advance of the construction. We know that bus service to these facilities is important, and we've made them know that that's what our opinion is. So nothing concrete, but we keep telling them. We will probably reroute the R1 and the R4 to accommodate the new downtown station once it's built, but we would like to see feeder service to some of the other stations on the corridor as well. But we can't do that without some kind of funding arrangement. We don't print money.
We don't?
No, we don't.
A problem that is common up and down the line is the lack of sidewalks at bus stops. We end up walking in the street if we have to go, a bit off and we have to walk in either in the street or on the grass. It seems that that's something that we've discussed in the past that has been, you're aware of that problem. And I was wondering if you had any, if there'd been any progress on programs to provide sidewalks where the bus stops.
Well, we're hoping that NERC incentivizes pedestrian access to bus stops in their next notice of funding availability. It's not something that we can afford to do on our own because it's a municipal priority, but the state has informed any community that has bus service, fixed route bus service, that their ADA accessibility plans have to include access to those bus stops. So Highland, in addition to Gary, Highland and Hammond and East Chicago and Munster have to actually say whether or not the bus stops in their communities are accessible. We can make some recommendations. We probably won't be building sidewalks, but we're hoping that NERC sets aside money so that these communities can build sidewalks specifically for stable bus stops.
So the answer is that this is something that everyone is aware of, and eventually they're going to be addressing it?
Well, I know that when the city did their bike and pedestrian plan, the city of Gary, they're using the same money that we're using for our tactical urbanism projects. They got the same type of grant. They came to us not just to collaborate on getting input on the plan itself, but to help them pick who was going to be doing that plan. And my point of view was we wanted someone who had experience in doing transit planning, because the questions that they asked in that process, and I'm not sure if it's published yet, but it should be close to being done, that plan does acknowledge that bicycle access to buses and pedestrian access to buses should be on the city's priority list. So Gary, to give them their laudits, Gary is making it front and center. Transit is front and center in their bicycle plan. I don't know how they're going to afford it, but their plan does focus on it. We're hoping that the other communities can do the same.
And one other question. This has come up as well in the past. One of the most effective ways to advertise the GPTC service is to have bus stop signs so that people know where a bus. I could tell you that as often as I ride the system, I'm not familiar enough to know all these odd turns that a bus, like the Tiburon Trail and the Burr Street, it like makes a turn every couple of blocks. There's no way for me to know whether I'm on a corner that the bus is going to come by or if I'm not, and it doesn't take the same route back. So, just because you let me off here doesn't mean you're going to pick me up here.
Go back a few.
Is it possible to?
Go ahead, keep going.
Is it possible to find a priority for putting the signage so that people? Because and I would even say this, that there are some bus stop signs. There's one right on Broadway. I was shocked because the guy was waiting for the bus, and the bus driver yelled at him, "That's not a bus stop." But if it's not a bus stop, why is there a bus stop sign there? So if the bus stop is not there, it shouldn't be a bus stop. Like you've got on Route 12, you've got the bus shelter. It looks like it's a bus stop. Anyone not knowing would think it's a bus stop, and maybe wait for a bus for weeks at a time. But so things that are not bus stops shouldn't have bus stop signs, and places that the bus will go by should have bus stop signs.
Gary Up Construction is going to be doing that in addition to
For the whole system?
Yes.
Oh,
We're going to identify locations that have bus stop signs that aren't bus stops. We call them orphan stops. I mean, like 37th Avenue in Glen Park.
Yeah.
It used to have bus service, but doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
We need to get rid of those. We've gotten some of them removed, but we still have some out there, obviously. So as part of the city, region-wide shelter programs, you just call it a region-wide bus stop program. It will include bus stop signs as well as the shelter.
So you're going to put up some bus stop signs
Yes.
too? Okay.
If we receiving funding from the federal government, are you receiving any funding from the casino?
No. Short answer, no. We don't have any advertising deal with the casino currently, and we don't get any direct subsidy or anything like that from the casino. We've got a relationship with them because we work with them to get our buses, as close to the front doors as possible. But we didn't have a fiscal agreement with the Majestic Star when it was here, and we don't have one with Hard Rock currently. We're looking to try to do that. Maybe the city can help intercede for us. Our advertising company has been trying to make inroads as well. But right now it has not borne fruit, but it is something that we're prioritizing. The board will tell you that, because they get on me all the time. Anything else? Did you have any questions, ma'am? I'm sure. Okay.
Something I was gonna go back to, remember when you were gonna do bus route down I-65. Remember that was a consideration? So I was gonna, but I said, no, I'll wait.
Well, I mean, no. We actually looked at that. I think we called it, I forget, it was a flyer or something.
Right.
That ended up becoming the Bromley Metro Express. So that concept,
Right,
when we were able to increase the speeds on the Broadway corridor itself, it kind of negated the need for a duplicate
Oh,
route.
is that why?
Right. So so what we did was instead of creating a new route, we just made the existing route. We replaced it with a faster route.
It wasn't the speeds, it was you eliminated a lot of stops along Broadway, right?
Right.
That's what.
Well, that's what speeds it up. And,
Oh, yeah, right,
And not
okay.
not stopping at every corner. You've got fewer stops, but there's more frequency. And what we're going to be doing is studying ridership on the BMX. And once it gets to a point where we're going to need to go back to 20-minute service, because right now we're at 30 minutes because of COVID.
Okay.
Once we get probably over 12 to 15 passenger pickups per hour, we'll probably need to increase the frequency on that route. But that's something that's going to be based on, dependent on whether or not we've got the manpower and whether or not we've got the vehicles to do it. But right now, we're at slightly reduced service for that route, but it was designed for every 20 minutes, and that was kind of negating the need for that, I think we called it the
Flyer.
flyer, right.
Can you, there was a question on Facebook. Can you go back and talk about what you mentioned about the life expectancy of our buses and also the new buses that are going to be coming out into rotation?
Just slide 3 or 4. Okay. Yeah. Couple more. There we go. Go forward. Oh, no, this one here, right. Your average bus, well, the useful life of our larger fixed route vehicles is 12 years. And most of our vehicles are averaging 11 at this time. Some are newer, some are older, but we got some that are much older than 12 years. And our vans, useful life is 4 years, and right now, our vans average 4 years. But again, 3 of our vans are going to be replaced with the new brand, the Access 219, in a month or so. So those are being replaced, and the new buses, I think in May and June we'll be getting all of the diesels and all of the electrics that we have ordered.
We got an idea how many that is?
4 electrics and 3 diesels.
So 7 new
7
buses
new buses. Right.
next summer, spring, summer next
Spring,
year.
right.
Okay, thanks.
So for context, how many fixed route buses do you have in service right now?
Right now, I think we run at peak 16. It really depends on whether or not it's, every bus is out there, and obviously we have a reduced fleet on Saturday. And before anyone asks, we still can't afford to do Sunday service.
So you guess so 7 buses would be about, well, not
About
quite
40%
half
of our
of
fleet.
So how much? About how much?
About 40% of our fleet, yeah. Against a smaller service, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so getting 7 buses replaced is significant.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked. I wanted to get the context.
All right, I appreciate that.
In the past, the GPTC had service to the county fair. I don't think they did that this year.
No, yeah.
And the beach bus service, is that something that's going to be picked up next year?
We actually did the beach bus service this year. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had the buses go through market. The beach bus service.
It was not marketed very strongly.
Yeah, I know, because, first of all, we realized, we can do it this year because the beaches are open in 2021. During the summer months, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, we reroute the L2 from noon Friday and all day Saturday to actually go straight into Marquette Park as opposed to going down Forest Avenue. So essentially during the weekends, you got direct service in the Marquette Park. We'll be doing that in 2022 again, and hopefully, it really depends on how East Chicago transit service is adjusted, whether or not we do the county fair. Because the county fair service connects our service and East Chicago Transit service to the fair. And last year, East Chicago Transit wasn't serving that same location. So hopefully, we'll be able to do that this year as they get, rebuild their system post-COVID, knock on wood. And as we make sure we've got the vehicles to be able to do it.
Well, it's a convenient way to access the fair, and it's, I think, with more intense promotion, it'd be probably very well used.
Yeah. I'd love to duplicate it for the Festival of the Lakes, in my opinion. No, I'd love to see if Mayor McDermott can do that. Mayor McDermott, to his credit, Hammond has been providing funding for the services that we provide to their community for the past 3 years. So,
But it's not promoted.
Well, we don't go to the Festival of the Lakes now.
Yeah.
But we do the Lakeshore Connection, the Lakeshore South, they help pay for that.
Okay.
Right.
But for someone in Gary to know it, it would have to be.
Well, remember, it was an issue a couple of years ago, and it was brought out. That's what you were looking for Hammond and those outlying to
And
help
they-
support
right,
it.
and
And so
they delivered.
And they delivered.
We lost, we had to recalculate how we counted our federal dollars, and as a result, we lost about $300,000 in our budget from the regional services. And we informed people that unless we got $200,000 back at least from other sources, we would have to cut service. Lake County provides $150,000 in their budget for the past 2 or 3 years, and Hammond has done the same thing to the tune of $50,000 in that same time period. Before that, we didn't get any regional assistance outside of Gary. But now Maryville, Hammond, and Lake County provide a little bit of funding, not nearly as much as Gary, but a little bit of funding for service.
We talked a lot about the buses and the vehicle status and so forth. But is it possible that I can talk about the bus drivers? Because they have a great deal to do with this too. Is it possible?
You can ask that question. It might not be a question we can answer now, but we do have the Director of Transportation here. We might help to have a one-on-one conversation, especially if it's
I
about
want everyone to know
specific.
about it.
If it's about specific drivers, that might be.
No, it's not a specific
Okay.
driver.
Okay, go ahead.
It's about all the drivers.
Okay.
Just let me take this coat off for just a moment. I would like to come to the front. Is it okay?
All right, sure.
My name is Ruth Johnson, and I am a passenger, a person who rides the bus quite a bit. And I just want to talk a little about the bus drivers. I appreciate all of this, and this is wonderful, but I want to talk about the bus drivers. And I never met Mr. Riley Stewart. Are you? But I've spoken to you on
Several days.
at least 3 occasions
Yes, you have.
about the bus drivers.
Take care.
But what I want you to know is that I really appreciate this, and I appreciate the Gary Public Transportation Corporation and Mr. Riley Stewart and all the bus drivers. As you can see, that I am disabled. You check these arms out and you see that the right arm is swollen and edematous, and it is due to radical surgery. I had breast cancer in 1973. And also what you don't see is that my right shoulder is fractured, and it won't heal. The right arm is dislocated from the shoulder, and you see that the arm is paralyzed. Well, the reason for the swollen area is because of the cancer that I had in 1973 and the surgery. Also, what you don't see, and I'm saying this because of how I appreciate the bus drivers. What you don't see is that I also have cancer of the left breast now. And this was relayed to me in 2019. And the doctors have informed me that if I don't have the surgery and chemotherapy, that I would be dying very shortly. Well, I'm still here. But what I'm saying here is how I appreciate the bus drivers. I appreciate Mr. Riley Stewart for your leadership, and these bus drivers, I really appreciate you because you all have been just a blessing to me. You have been, how should I say, kind, caring, thoughtful, and really concerned about me. I know that with this cancer, that it might just be another period of time and I will be gone. But I want everyone to know how I feel about these bus drivers and how I'm so grateful and I appreciate the fact that you have allowed me to still be able to be independent and to still be able to be here. And what I'm saying to you, Mr. Stewart, thank you for your leadership with these wonderful bus drivers. I really appreciate them because they have made it possible for me to still be independent. I'm not in a nursing home. I'm not in hospice. I might be going there soon, but I'm not there yet. And I just want please tell the bus drivers, all of them, how much I love them and how much I appreciate the kindness, the caring, and the concern that they have showed for me. And thank you, bus drivers. Please tell these bus drivers that I am
You better tell them, Riley.
for how I appreciate what they have done.
Yes.
You got a couple of men, you got a couple people, you got a few dollars.
Yeah, we appreciate you for saying that. Amen. Amen.
Let you know how I feel.
That's right. Amen. Yes. It's always nice to hear something positive because, you know, every day I'm like, the drivers go out there and they risk their life, especially with COVID and stuff going on, and not enough people say thank you. And it's we do appreciate, I appreciate you guys as well, and I thank you so much for taking the opportunity
I love the
to
bus
share
drivers.
that.
I love the bus
That
drivers.
made me feel good. So, that's great. That's great. Now I gotta ask this question from Facebook. I don't know if you can answer it. It's again about, let's say, winterizing the buses. What is it that we're doing to prepare them for the winter? I know that last year there was concerns about the heating. Of course, everybody didn't understand you can't crank up the bus to 90 like in your car. But what are some things that we are doing with those buses that are a little bit older to make sure that they are able to go out there and be safe for the winter time?
Hopefully this is the last one of those older buses are going to be out there. Did you want to answer that real quick, Rodney?
Oh, I didn't even see you back there. Maintenance director.
Introduce yourself and
Hello everyone, my name is Rodney.
Hey,
I'm the
Rodney.
maintenance director for Gary Public Trans. We do a lot of winterizing from tires, windshield wiper fluid, washing out all the radiators, making sure everything is running perfectly. Every now and then when it starts snowing, you get a lot of ice into the radiator where it don't produce. But the main thing, that door is opening and closing every so often. So it ain't like they said, it ain't gonna be 90 degrees. But most of the time, all the buses are running fine. Any questions?
Oh, that was a Facebook question.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question about that. And it's not to dispute what you say or to put you on the spot, but as a person who do ride those buses periodically, I have been on the buses quite often when it's either too hot because there's no air on it, or too cold. And I do realize that the bus drivers are not able to control that once the buses go out. I do understand it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But what I am trying to understand is it because a bus is older, when you get on a bus and it's like the bus starts making that beeping sound and then just cuts off in the middle of traffic?
Right, that's probably a sensor that went out on that bus. Just say in the summertime, they blasting the AC wide open. If you got humidity, 90 or 100 plus, it's running wide open, and that part of it is not the age of the bus, it's just the system we got in it. We got the new systems in it as well, that's pushing that. So it's not the age of the bus, it's what the AC is and the heat is as well.
So are you saying that because of the conditions that it's under, that can happen no matter what age?
Right, you got a load on that system.
Okay.
That there's nothing you can do. It's doing fast as it can to pump out that heat or that AC.
Have you all looked into ways to go around that? Because I don't know how much the buses cost, but from what I've been told, at the price for one bus, is there a way to find some other alternative to that happening? I mean,
Yes,
I understand it's constantly running.
And I understand that. And just say sometimes the buses are running. Yeah, I can see them sometimes open the windows, even though the AC is on.
Right.
So that's hard to fix when they got the windows open and it's hot outside and the AC is running.
Okay.
Right.
So it's basically contradicting.
Right. If they keep the windows up, it might be warmer, but at the same time, some people be hot. It's the person that's sitting in that seat.
Okay.
Right. Or like in heat in the wintertime. It's just hard to control when that bus is rolling.
Got it. Thank you.
And Rob, is there any way when we have some of the Gillick techs on site for the electrics, that they can also maybe advise us on the side on how to mitigate that for the diesels? I mean, is that something that you can like?
Yes, I can talk with them about that.
Okay.
On these new diesels on these new electrics we're getting, only part of that is the heater that we're gonna have on that, and we'll see how that works. I never worked with electric. I've been out to several facilities and asked them how they run, but all those facilities out west where it don't get cold. So we're gonna see how that load is, and we'll see after the first year and see what we got.
And just something that you did mention that I think it's worth noting, the electrics are gonna be low emission, not zero emission, because we're getting heaters.
Right.
Okay, we're not gonna be using it's not gonna be electric heater, we're gonna be using a gas heater, so the only
Part of
only part of the bus is gonna be fuel, that's gonna burn fuel, is that heater in the winter.
And we got to see how that's gonna go.
And that was something that most cold weather electric bus recipients have said to go ahead and do.
When those electric buses come, do you anticipate decreased usage because of the wintertime temperatures? Because I do know that extreme temperatures can affect battery charging times and things of that nature. So.
Yes, and I thought at the same time, with the battery, it's really more heat. Right, heat affects it more than the wintertime. The testing, what I done talked with the manufacturer about, we should be getting about 150 miles, and we got to test that for here. So as of right now, it's supposed to be in that range.
Okay.
So we will see. After we do our analysis, we'll see where we at, and then I can have you better answers because we have statistics on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, yeah, I mean, basically the BMX is gonna be a lab for electric buses here in Northwest Indiana. It's gonna be cold, it's gonna be hot, but it's also a straight line, the BMX is, so they might get a bit more mileage than usual because there's not a whole lot of terrain to deal with
Right.
on the BMX.
Right. And you know, dealing with the electrics, operators they're gonna have to have training as well.
Right.
Because that helps out a lot as well.
I
And
guess.
that,
Oh.
and that determines on what the mileage is gonna be.
Okay. And I guess I'm assuming that also that for each bus, there will be an equal charging station that's equivalent for the buses. If the plan and contingency is to charge overnight, or
Yes, we're gonna have charging stations at 35th Avenue. And we're gonna have a charging station at the turnaround. And that should, and we're gonna have extra chargers for when we get new buses. We're already gonna have that in place, so we won't have to rebuild again.
Okay.
It'll already be in place.
okay. Cool.
Anything else? Do the drivers have any questions? Okay. Don't forget, and again, I'm gonna stick around and if anyone has any questions on our mobile pass program or any other question on the presentation, you know, you can go ahead and ask. So,
I would just like to say, this is from our board chair. On behalf of GPTC Board of Directors, we thank everyone for attending this summit. She's a little under the weather, so she couldn't be here, but she wants to thank you all for attending and supporting GPTC.